All right, guys, and here we go into our last chapter. We're going to talk about statistics. Okay, and statistics is when we talk about data, and there's lots of ways that data can go ahead and be organized. But what we want to look at here is if we want to go ahead and talk about descriptive statistics, that just means we're collecting, organizing, summarizing, and presenting the data however we wanted to go ahead and present that. When we have inferential statistics, we make generalizations and drawing conclusions from the data there. So when we talk about collecting data, what we usually want to know is something about a population. Okay. But there's no way to go ahead and hit every single person. Let's say I wanted to go ahead and find out the music interests of every college student in the USA. Okay, that's going to be really difficult to do. Okay, but what we go ahead and do is we go ahead and we take a sample. So we survey a sample of students from colleges all over the USA, and then from there we can go ahead and inference or make a educated guess about the types of music that college students like all over the USA based off of a sample, as long as the sample is large enough. Okay, so our sample has to be large enough to represent the population we are trying to go ahead and do. So if I only went ahead and surveyed one student from every college in the USA and then try to make a generalization about every college student in the USA, that's not a big enough sample. So we want to make sure our sample is big enough to go ahead and make sure our population is properly represented. Okay? Well, our sampling methods is the first thing we're going to talk about. So a random sample, which is always what we want to go ahead and try to do, we want to create it in such a way that every single element in the population could go ahead and be represented. Okay, so if I wanted to go ahead and survey college students on the type of music they like in Central Florida, let's keep it small. But I only went ahead out to or even UCF. Let's say I went to UCF. What music students like at UCF? Because UCF's pretty big. And I only sat in the student union on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm not going to catch every college student that's going around there, because a lot of students avoid the student union on Wednesday because usually it tends to be a lot of marketing going on. All right. Or maybe the student doesn't have a class on Wednesday afternoon. Or maybe the student only takes classes at night, so I would never catch them, or early in the morning. So we want to make sure that every person is represented when we talk about a random sample. All right. And so what we want to do is we want to also get a representative sample of college students. So if I was only looking for a certain age group of college students, I want to make sure that I go ahead and hit all the characteristics that I'm looking for from those students. Like if somebody came over and caught some of us at night, some of us at night are a little older than the target group. So we want to make sure that we're surveying our target group to go ahead and make a good generalization off of that. Right. So when I go ahead and look at example 1 on page 148, and I'm not writing it down because it's a bunch of stuff, I want to go ahead and find an appropriate sample for the city's residents. And what I want to do, I want to see if the residents will support the construction of a new jail, and we want to go ahead and get a sample of the city's residents. Okay. A says I have a sample of the employees and inmates of the old jail. Okay. Survey the inmates of the old jail. That is not the general public. That's not the whole city. So that's restriction by location. Number B, survey every 5th person who walks into City Hall on a given day. I don't know about you guys, but I can't tell you the last time I've walked into a City Hall. And so that you're only going ahead and getting the people that happen to need to go to the City Hall on whatever particular day you are going ahead and doing your survey. Again, that's a restriction on the general population of the city. C, survey a random sample of persons with each geographic region of the city. That's sounding pretty good, because not only am I staying in one place, I'm going all over the city looking for people that are all over the city to go ahead and ask them about this new jail. And then Part D, survey the first 200 people listed in the city's telephone directory. Well, those people's all last names going to start with A and B. So that's not a good representative of all the people in the city, especially those that might end up, with the last name starting with Z. Okay, so in this case, C is our best choice for a survey. Going ahead, random sampling people, and going to each geographic region of the city. That's a good idea to see if the residents will go ahead and support our city jail. Right? And we want to go ahead and start looking at distributions. And the first thing we want to look at is a frequency distribution. Okay. And what we're trying to find out, if I could spell this right, is the frequency that something occurs. Okay. And so our piece of datas, okay, is our data items, okay, and the value of that data will be whatever that number is usually. Let's look at a short frequency distribution, and I'll leave a larger one for you to go ahead and take care of. Example 3, I have a frequency distribution for the data showing final course grades for students in a pre-calculus course, listed alphabetically in there. Okay, so my grades, I'm going to go ahead and set up my distribution table, and I have my grades, and I have my frequency. All right, and so my grades, standard grades A, B, C, D, and F. Okay, and if I go ahead and count in my data I've given, I have a total of 3 A's. If I go, and I usually cross them out as I find them. That usually helps. So as I'm going through the list, I'm looking for A's, I cross out A's as I'm counting and going through the list. Okay? Going through the B's, I have a total of 5 B's. C's, if I'm counting on them, I have 9 C's. Counting through again, I have 2 D's and 1 F. And what you want to make sure is when you add these items up, they should equal to the number of data pieces. Okay, in this case, my number of data pieces is 20. Okay, so this is a small frequency table that you could go ahead and set it up. So basically it lets me know that the majority of my grades for this pre-calculus course were C's. Okay. Another way we could go ahead and do this is through a tally type of thing. So I could go ahead and take the same thing and go ahead and group it together. So I can go ahead and look at example 5. Okay. And look at my data points. And I have 37 exam scores. So I have exam scores. Okay. I have my tallies that I'm going to go ahead and do as I go through them. And the number of students. This is my frequency. Okay. And as I go through, I want to go ahead and get a class, set them up in classes, okay? So they told me that the first class is 40 to 49. And so 40 would be my lower class limit, and 49 would be my upper class limit. And my class width will be subtracting the 2. So my class width is 9. Okay? So my next one would be 50 to 59, then 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, and 90 to 99. And when I go through the data, I'm going to go ahead and tally them up as I go through it. So first one I see is 73. I'm going to go ahead and put a tally there. And the next one I'm going to go down is 87, so I'm going to put a tally there, 95, and I'm going to keep going till I have all my tallies done. All right. And then I'm going to count those tallies. I'm going to put them in my frequency. So my frequencies here is 1, 5, 4, 15, because I'm running out of juice on my pencil, 5, and 7, for a total of 37, which is the number of exam scores they told me that I had. So you can tally them as you go along and go in an order. I like to go down each column. That's how I like to do it. You may want to go across each row. It doesn't matter which way you do it, but what you're doing is every time you run across something within your class width, then you go ahead and tally it in there. And they told me my class what my first one was, so I could go ahead and just make them off of it as long as they all had a class width of 9. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get off of this right now, and I'll come back as soon as I get this charged up.